Members, it's time to start our third session. Let's continue with our Q&A. Mr. Gary Fan. Well, this is my last question for the current session. I've looked at the 4 items on caverns. The most suitable site for the PRH development is the surface reservoir site in the Diamond Hill. We are concerned that the other sites will be for private housing or luxury housing. When you conduct the public engagement exercises, when you consult people, would you be covering the cost effectiveness, the cost of PRH, unit cost of PRH flats, and so on and so forth, be mentioned in your consultation document so that you can allow the public to fully assess the proposals. And then the views collected would be the result of an open consultation exercise instead of one with preconceived ideas. After the feasibility studies are completed, we'll publish the findings as soon as possible, as best we can, and then public consultation will follow. Well, it depends on the stages we are in. In the initial consultation exercises, we may not have the detailed figures, and as we progress, we hope we can release more figures and data. All right. Please jot down the relevant matters that you have to follow up. Dr. Fernando Zhang, we have received some information. According to some consultancy firm, the sewage treatment works will be operated underground, and the costs for ventilation and so on and so forth will be higher by 50% if it's a sewage treatment works. And the Hong Kong Institute of Engineers, Mr. Chung, also said that for a project like this, located in a cavern, the future maintenance costs and operating costs will be higher. So would the feasibility study look at the difference in operating costs? If the future operating cost is going to be higher, who is going to pick up the bill? Who is going to pay for it? A sewage treatment works located in a cavern compared with one located at Gray, what can be compared using real examples. If we look at Sai Kung sewage treatment works and compare the capacity with the one in Stanley, which is in a cavern, the operating cost is more or less the same. Yes, if it's in a cavern, then there are higher requirements on ventilation, and power consumption is higher. But it's important to control temperature in treating sewage. And in a cavern, controlling temperature is easier, and the energy consumption is lower. So on the whole, the two sets of operating costs will be similar. Are you going to cover this in your feasibility studies? Are you going to compare the two sets of figures on operating costs? This will be considered in the detailed feasibility studies. All right?
If members have no further questions on the 2 papers, and on the paper PWSC 2014-2153 feasibility study on relocation of Shenzhen sewage treatment works to caverns, let's vote Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. You may put down your hands. Those who are against, please raise your hands. We have one. Any abstention? I think most members have agreed to the motion. And next, PWSC brackets 2014-215 for feasibility study on relocation of Sai Kung sewage treatment works to Kevin's. Let's vote on this item. Those who are in favor, please raise your hands. You may put down your hands. Those who are against? Nope. Those who abstain, we have one. The majority of the members are in favor, and this item is passed. And next, for item 5, FCR brackets 2014-215, number 18. This item invites members to approve an allocation of 104.647 million from the Lotteries Fund for meeting the capital costs of the redevelopment project of Hip Hong Society's Catherine Low Center at Sandy Bay Road, Pok Fu Lam, for the provision of preschool rehabilitation and other support services. On the 14th of April 2014, the Welfare Services Panel consulted the Legislative Council on this issue. And the comments of the WS panel has been consulted. And we have Mr. Siu, Commissioner for Rehabilitation, Deputy Director of Social Welfare, Mr. Lam Ka-tai, and Assistant Director of Social Welfare, Rehab and Medical Social Services, and Senior Architects of Social Welfare Department. Mr. Fernando Chang. I thought the government would outline the papers, but never mind. I've omitted this part. On the introduction of social welfare facilities on government land, we are talking about preschool rehabilitation services, and we're focusing on special child activity centers, and these facilities are lacking, and the waiting list is very long, and we have to wait for more than half an hour. So I'm in strong support of this proposal. If you are asking these kids to wait any further, by that time maybe they're no longer eligible because they have reached 6 years of age, and in principle we completely support this proposal. We agree with the allocation of $100 million or so from the Lotteries Fund to build these facilities, but we are talking about public money, and this is money from the government, even though the Lotteries Fund is chaired by the Director of Social Welfare. In terms of service, in comparison with subvented services, which are self-financing, and the ratio of the floor areas is around 55 to 45. I hope the government can provide more subvented services, because such subvented services are not cheap at all. And we are talking about thousands of dollars in costs, in prices, and these activities can only be afforded by well-off families. And we should use public money to build such facilities and allow the NGOs to operate these activities. But the target seems to be the more well-off families. So the situation is we are injecting public money, but only the more well-off families can benefit, and the poor families can never benefit. So this is my main concern. So in terms of service area, can you increase the ratio? Right now the ratio is about 55% of subvented services and 45% private services. In the past, the ratio for RCHEs is 60 to 40. I hope all of the services are subvented. If not, at least 80 or 90% should be subvented services. Have you considered such possibility? So you should focus your facilities on subvented services. Mr. Siu, or can Mr. Siu say something on Mr. Zheng's question? As we decide the number of service places offered or the number of subvented service places, we have considered the experience and capability of the service providers. Of course, we would address the overall demand of different services, and we would respect the service providers. As I mentioned, if we consider the gross floor area, the special preschool rehab centers, and we have 54 places for special infant centers and 64 places for preschool services, and 887 square meters of floor space is associated with these services, and we do need staff to support the provision of these services. And as such, we have about 225 square meters in office facility, and this consists of 60% of our gross floor area, net operational floor area. In this scheme, for the Catherine Low Center, in the past, we only had about 60 places, and we have increased the number of places to 180, including preschool and special school services. And members were concerned whether the prices of these subvented services are too high, and a lot of families cannot afford these services. And in fact, Hip Hong Society is a non-profit organization, and when they draw up their price levels, they would think about the costs of providing these services, and they would also consider the resources they obtain from sources like donations. And we have a child training fund, which serves to help low-income families in applying for these services. And under this child training fund, in the past, the maximum subsidy can reach 75% of the prices of the services. Yes, I think we've heard enough. Mr. Pt3, and you're speaking on behalf of Ms. Chen Yunhan, right? Ms. Chen Yunhan is not present, so I'm representing the Welfare Services Panel to report on the meeting progress of 14 April 2014 on the funding suggestion. The panel doesn't oppose to the proposal laid out, but we are requesting the government to increase the number of service places for preschool children, and the government has to solve the problem of transport facilities for Catherine Low Center. So this is the view of the panel. And I have a question to ask the administration right now. Just now, the deputy director mentioned the number of service places, but it's obvious that 55 places and 55% or 75%, or the ratio different, the difference in ratio of 55 to 45 is not enough. We are asking for at least 70% in subvented services and 30% in self-financing services. So can you promise that you would go down this direction in the future? We have mentioned transport auxiliary facilities. We are talking about very young children. They must be accompanied by adults. At the same time, a lot of people might travel to these facilities. So would you work with minibus operators to address the issue of transport? So 2 questions. Thank you very much. And after its development, the Catherine Low Center has introduced self-finance services to provide extra options for the public. The benefits of self-finance services is that they are flexible for the public or PWDs, and the centers can can tailor-make services for different people, and they could fill the gap and provide services which are not normally provided by the government. In the past, the Catherine Low Center had 2 vehicles. We had one 7-seater and one 45-seater. But we understand that if as we expand the number of service places, we must provide enough support in terms of transportation as well. So as such, we will introduce 2 new 55-seaters, and that means we can cater for 110 people in total. And this is the standard we provide is higher than the norm. And when Hip Hong Society conducted their feasibility study, they had considered the issue or the impacts on transportation. And they have consulted the transport department, and as such, we understand that we agree that the support is adequate. And as members correctly pointed out, we do have minibuses to the Catherine Low Center, and as far as we know, there are at least 3 routes that reach Catherine Low Center, and at least 2 bus routes with stops in the vicinity of the center. Chairman, I'm very happy to know that the government will provide 2 coaches. Would you provide subvention to for the drivers? In our operating costs, we have included this cost. So if we are to provide vehicles, we must provide the manpower as well. Next, Ms. Ann Chang. Thank you, Chairman. I have a question for the administration. I see that we are to spend more than $100 million to redevelop Catherine Low Center. But the fact is, we have only increased the number of places from 66 to 120, and we also have 60 subvented places from the SWD on preschool education. As we all know, recently we have seen a few tragedies in Hong Kong, and one case was one of the cases involved a father and a son, and the father could not help the son, and the son was hyperactive, and I think that the father killed his son. So I have seen many similar cases at districts, and last week I was told by a member from the district that he had 3 sons who were hyperactive, and we have a lot of victims of autism and hyperactivity, and the fact is we have a few thousand children waiting for services. Right now we are spending more than $100 million to build a 10-story building, and we could only provide just more than 100 children. Can you make better use of the resources to can we make better use of our money?
For the special childcare center from the first to the fourth story, and then from the fifth floor up is early education and training center. That's on the fifth floor, and then we have parents resource center, support center, and so on and so forth. Can we make better use of the available land so that we can serve more needy children? Administration, your response? For the special childcare center, it has to be licensed according to the ordinance on childcare. We need to issue them a license, and there is a building height restriction. Normally speaking, a special childcare center cannot be located above a height of 24 meters. That's why in paragraph 4, we set out the self-financing services to be provided by Hip Hong. They will take care of children with autism or ADHD to provide special service. There are trainings for the social development. Are you going to increase your capacity? Well, actually, we are going to increase 1,471 more places from this year. For those requiring preschool services, we have some 2,000 with different degrees of autism. So we increase the number of places, they can be a help. Dr. Fernando Cheung. Hip Hong Society is a very good organization. It's a non-profit organization. According to the Deputy Director, it's a non-profit organization. It's not out there to get a profit. Certainly, that's true. But the cost is not low either. I've just go on to the web. 550 for the supportive learning project for a 50-minute session. For 8 sessions, it's $4,160 per month. And then language training, physiotherapy, occupational therapy is $720 for 50 minutes. Let's say you have 2 sessions per week and 50 minutes each. Then for a month, it's $5,760. Well, you may think that it's just a small sum, just 5,000 plus. But to many families, it's more than what they can use on food. Yes, the services are there, but they are not affordable to ordinary families. So Ms. Zhang has put a good question to you. Why don't you provide more subvented places? Since the floor area is going to be increased. Transport is another question. Please give us a serious answer. On average, the waiting time is 1 year and a half. In some area, hard-hit areas such as Sha Tin, the waiting time is over 2 years. Can you not increase the number of subvented places? Can you do that? As I've said, the self-financing services are provided in the light of the organizations, the operators' direction of development. We want to make sure that such services would benefit service users and they are flexible. Dr. Fernando Cheung has raised the problem of high cost, but the Hip Hong Society has a fund, a training fund. The highest subsidy level is 75% of the cost, or 6,000 at most. And also under the CCF, there is a training subsidy for those who are waiting to be admitted to such rehabilitation services. If their families are low-income families, they can apply for assistance. Actually, come this October, the subsidy will be regularized. So if they will have to purchase such services, they can apply for assistance under the regularized arrangement. Ms. Emily Lau, as some members have said, there is a big demand on the services and the supply is lacking. So I hope the administration can do more. In paragraph 13, it says that up to end of 2013-14, there were a total of 6,245 subvented places, and then it's anticipated that another 800 or so will come on stream in 2014 and 15. How many are still waiting? And you're going to identify additional sites for such services. Have you encountered difficulties? Have you met local resistance? Yes, the current number of places is 6,245. We have a waiting list of 7,400. In the coming 4 years, we are going to increase the number by 1,471 places. And last year, we launched a special scheme for privately owned land. We invite NGOs to redevelop the sites so that they can use the land for the provision of more social welfare services. The response has been very good. We have received 63 applications which we assessed to be qualified initially, and then we are going to have 25 preschool and rehab projects. So apart from 1,471 additional places, we would also provide another 3,800 through the redevelopment projects. We understand that there is an acute demand. There is a big demand. So we would identify opportunities in public rental housing estate projects and private housing projects to try to identify sites for the provision of such centers. Well, I think at this stage it's not really likely that you can increase the number of places, but can you do this? And also in future housing projects, you should try to incorporate such centers. Well, the waiting list is 7,000 odd. It must be due to the neglects over the years. We have 6,000 odd places, and then the waiting list is more than that, 7,000 odd. Can you do more? Well, actually, we have increased the number already. First, the number of places was smaller. We asked for a higher number for subvented places, and even for self-financing places. They are there to serve the children in need. What about new housing estates, public rental housing estates, private housing estates? Are you going to incorporate such units in those projects? We'll work hard on that. What do you mean? Is the housing department not agreeable? Well, we'll try to provide such facilities in new housing projects. Have you encountered difficulties? So far, it's all right. In September, in 4 public rental housing estates, we are going to set up 4 new centers. Well, if you have problems, you should come back to tell us, and then we can ask people why they object to having more centers like these. Ms. Claudia Mo, I've been following up your figures, 7,400, and then I try to make the calculation. And there's still 2,000 to 3,000 waiting. What is the exact number? What is the number of people waiting? No, they're going to get some places in private projects. 7,400 are waiting, and then after deducting the numbers in terms of provision, we still have 2,000 to 3,000. What would happen to these people? What's the fallback? Well, actually, in 4 years, we are going to increase an additional 1,471 places in the longer term through the redevelopment project or privately owned. We are going to provide another 3,800. So together, 5,200 additional supply. So there will be 2,200 left. But the facilities will be phased in. And there's another program. We are going to regularize the CCF program, which provide a subsidy to low-income families with children in need. They can apply for a training subsidy, so that on a monthly basis, they can purchase service from NGOs, so that during the so-called golden period, they will be able to have access to the necessary services. All right, so there will be 2,200 in the waiting list. They can apply for this or that, this kind or that kind of subsidy, but they're still on the waiting list. Or is it that after applying for subsidy of this sort or another, they will not be in the waiting list anymore? Is getting the subsidy meaning that they will be disqualified? Well, in July we'll have 7,000 in the waiting list, but after August, some children will be admitted to primary schools. We believe 3,300 children would vacate their places, because after 6, they would go to they go primary schools, and the places would be vacated for use by other children. Mr. Jiang. Thank you, Chairman. I have received some information that they attend the whole day session, and they also participate in other activities. They have to pay as much as $10,000 a month. How come it's so expensive? Is it because they are profit-making in nature? Do we want to subsidize profit-making programs? Why is it that they are charging so much? Is it that they will tell you that the cost per student is such and you provide the funding? To what extent is the government involved? You are going to have a bigger and bigger group of service recipients. So who decide the subvention amount? Chairman, sorry, I know we have many items before us, but there are so many children waiting, and we have family tragedies resulting from such a situations. For our training centers, early education and training centers, the children will attend a session every week, and then we have special workers, physiotherapists, speech therapists, or occupational therapists providing the training. Under the Community Care Fund, there's a program which we are going to regularize this year. It's $2,615 provided to children of needy families to purchase 4 sessions of training sessions per month.
Mr. Frederick Fung, I'd like to follow up on Ms. Emily Lau's question. We have asked the same question many times in the past, and yet we have received no concrete answer from the government. And for HOS and PRH, can you establish a ratio especially for RCHEs and facilities for PWDs, can you fix or define a specific ratio of service provision so that you can better allocate the land? We don't have such policy at the moment. Can you confirm whether we have such a policy at the moment? If not, can we fight for such a policy in the future? And for preschool rehab services, in September this year, as I mentioned, we will have 4 centers. No, I'm well aware of that. So tell us something new. And in our PRH projects, on the placement of services in PRH, we have no difficulties, and we are certain to introduce such services in PRH developments. Sorry, but he has not answered my question, Chairman. Are you going to assign a specific number of square feet to provide services, to provide such services? In the PRH developments, how many square feet would you allocate for these resources? Do you have a policy? In terms of preschool rehab services, we have not set such requirements, but so far we haven't encountered any problems. I'm sorry, Chairman, he is being very passive, but proactively speaking, have you ever told the Housing Bureau that have you ever defined a clear ratio in terms of area on the services provided? He has not responded to my question directly. Whenever we have such new developments, we have always worked with the Housing Department. We will continue to work hard. Chairman, the waiting list for RCHEs is as long as 42 months. Right now, you have no say. You are in no position to plan for such provisions. Under your policy, are you going to set a specific or allocate a certain area for these services? We have raised such views to the Buildings Department. Yes, Mr. Fernando Chang. Deputy Director, I think you're not responding to Mr. Frederick Fung's question. I guess you might be working hard, but you are unwilling to give a concrete answer. Of course, we knew that before the PRH developments are open, you would have such welfare facilities. But the issue is you have different standards for providing these services. For people in urgent need, you have no plan and no time scale for such services. Please don't deceive Ms. Claudia Mo. We have more than 7,000 people on the waiting list, and we have more than 3,000 kids who have reached 6 years of age, and we have more and more kids entering the system. And even if 3,000 kids will leave the list, we will have newcomers as well. So the overall figure is only going to increase. And for the 1,000 or so service places, you said they will be introduced gradually in 6 years. And for those 3,000 places, there isn't even a timeline or schedule. So are you sure that you can provide these places? And as of today, we have more than 7,000 people who cannot enjoy services. So the shortage of services is very severe. And this is something we all know. And this is disastrous because we are talking about preschool children, which is a golden age for learning. And this is a crucial period for children, and it's pivotal for their lives. And right now you are not working hard and you're still trying to confuse us with figures. This is infuriating. For policy-related matters, I think they should be followed up in the respective subcommittees. We should urge the government to do something. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung. I think I'm very surprised you said so. Perhaps we have to review some videos of yourself. And they said the government said there are 3,000 leavers, but how many people or how many children are entering the system every year? Is the overall figure increasing every year, as Mr. Fernando Chang suggested? Can you speak closer to the microphone, please? I'd like to confirm whether what Mr. Fernando Chang said was true. Mr. Lam, please. Every year, we have around 4,000 new applications for preschool rehab services. And on average, every year, we have 3,000 or so children who are leaving the system. So the net growth is about 860 places. Or 680 places. So the supply fails to meet the demand, right? We do have an imminent need. In light of the service shortage, how can you reverse the situation? I'm not asking for I'm not asking you to completely solve the problem, but how do you reverse this trend? You have about 400 new 700 new places. Over the course of 5 years, there will be 3,500 children. And can you tell us that in 5 years' time, you can solve the problem of service shortage? Can you achieve a balance in 5 years? Do you have any plans? Well, our view is the same as all the members. We are trying to help these children as soon as possible. I'm sure this is everyone's wish. In the next 4 years, we will have 1,400 new service places. And on the long term, we will have more than 3,800 service places, which would be realized in different periods. And at the same time, in October this year, we will have a new regularized scheme to provide training subsidy for children on the waiting list so that they can receive a specific amount of subsidy every month to purchase training services. I understand. So you are providing cash for them to acquire services from elsewhere, right? Yeah, correct. This is one thing we can do. For some NGOs might run pilot schemes to help these children enter the system as soon as possible. So we are very happy to work with the NGOs on this front. And for these pilot schemes, how long will they last and how many service places will be provided? You should be talking about around 3 years, right, for pilot schemes. Pilot schemes will not last very long, obviously. And in these pilot schemes, we would address the mode of service provision to see whether they can really help the children. So let me be more direct. How many pilot schemes do you have at the moment? And if these schemes are successful, how many service places will these pilot schemes translate to? We have to further discuss with the NGOs. All right, I understand. As you, if you are to give this issue some thoughts, would you, do you have any idea at all what you are going to think about? So you must have something on your mind before you do the discussions, right? I think we don't have to worry about the funding approval. I'm very sure that it will be passed. But were the figures you provided misleading? And you said in 4 years we will have 1,400 places. For the remaining 6,000 places, what will happen? And In the long term, we will introduce a further 3,000 places. So that leaves a shortfall of 2,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 places. So Mr. Fernando Chang said, I shouldn't be deceived. And when you responded to Mr. Leung Kwok-hong's question, I'm pretty sure that you were trying to deceive me. And the number of new places required every year is 7,000. So why did you mention the figure of 2,000? So let me first clarify that I have no intention to mislead any members. The fact is, every year we have 4,000 new applications, and at the same time, we have 3,300 children leaving the list for these services. So the net growth is 680 places. We are doing our very best to increase the number of service places for preschool rehabs services. So we hope we can help them through different services. He's always saying that he would do his best. So I'm a little concerned. I understand that this is a policy issue, but I hope that they can really work hard and not just use a piecemeal approach. And we have a net growth of 680 and places. So in 10 years, it will translate to 6,800 service places. And this figure will only continue to rise because of population growth. It's not enough that you work hard, you have to make a promise. So talk is cheap, but action is louder than words. Is that okay with you? This is something we will certainly do. And in this financial year, we will introduce 832 service places for preschool rehab services. And 2 months later, in September, we will have 4 new centers, which will provide 330 early education and training service places. And we also have some places for preschool rehab services. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Chairman, I'd like to follow up. I think no one would make an empty promise. Ms. Ann Chang asked a very good question just now. If the government is to provide money or subvention to any service providers, the services are either very expensive or the services might or might not be profitable. It's not reasonable either way. If it's profitable, why is the government subsidizing profit-making services? And if they don't make profits, why do the services cost so much? And for this service center, the Catherine Low Center at Sandy Bay, has the government compared this service center with other service centers? When we established the level of grants around $2,615 under the CCF, we have taken reference from the markets on similar services. So we have basically looked at the average figure of services on the market. And we have had discussions with NGOs, especially for services like speech therapy. It's difficult. It's not easy for these organizations to secure speech therapists, and as such, the cost might not be very low. And so for self-finance NGOs, even if they have profits, since they are NGOs, the surpluses would be put back, injected back into the services. You're a civil servant, right? If the government has a surplus, I understand that the civil servants would get a pay rise every year regardless, right? Is there any cap or restriction on the extent of the pay rises of the civil service? If you are saying if the organizations cannot make money and yet the directors are having a pay rise every year, so why is that? And we have a panel with monitoring the operation of the NGOs, comprising different professionals. For NGOs, if they are subvented, then and since May 2010, we have established guidelines stipulating that the top 3 tiers of the NGOs their salaries must be submitted to us.
And we would check it against the market to look for major deviations. If so, we ask the board to explain or to offer some solutions. Dr. Fernando Zhang, the speakers offline. If there's a big deviation, we ask the board to propose solutions to resolve it. Well, for this center, transport is important, and there are also the facilities nearby for the physically disabled. RCHE, Red Cross Center for physically handicapped children, the Children's Hospital, Duchess of Kent Hospital, and Mr. Kevin Lau is now rehabilitating there. And now with this new facilities serving children, it's a very steep road, not much transport, public transport to speak of. M47 has been cancelled. It used to go to Victoria Road. We only have mini buses. The frequency is low, and it's very difficult to book a rehab bus. I am sure this item will be endorsed, but please continue. Please tell the Transport Department to improve public transport for orthopedic patients. They may be on wheelchairs. They may be using electric wheelchairs. They can't even use ordinary public transport. Please ask the Transport Department to make improvements. All right? Please respond to members' questions and requests by necessary action. If there's no other question, I'll put the item to the vote. For those in favor of FCR 2014-15, number 18, please raise your hands. Hands down, please. Those against, please raise your hands. No one. Abstentions? No. I think the majority of members present are in favor of this item. This item is passed. Next item, FCR 2014-15, number 13. This item invites members to approve an allocation of $49.1019 million for the Lotteries Fund for meeting the construction costs of a new contract residential care home for the elderly with a daycare unit for the elderly in the public rental housing development of the Housing Authority at the site of Kwai Chung Police Married Quarters at Kwai Yi Road, Kwai Chung. At the meeting of the WS panel on the 14th of April, the panel's view was sought on the funding proposal. To answer members' questions, we have Mrs. Elena Chan, PAS, Mr. Lam Kartai, Deputy Director for Social Welfare, and Mrs. Cecilia Lee, AD from the SWD, and also from the Social Welfare Department, Mr. Simon Kwong, Senior Architects. Mr. Peter Cheung, for your introduction. On the 14th of April 2014, the Welfare Services Panel had a discussion of the funding proposal. Members did not object to the proposal, but some members asked the government to look into the problem with deteriorating service quality of contract RCHE, and also to look at the number of subvented places and to start the project earlier so that the relevant home can be commissioned as early as possible. So that's from the Welfare Services Panel. And I want to learn from the administration that the ratio is 60% for subvented service and 40% for self-financing places. We would like to increase the ratio to 70 to 30, and that is 70% taken up by subvented or subsidized places. It's just 10 additional places, not many. But the waiting list is growing. It now stands at 5,000 to 6,000 elderly applicants with an immediate degree of impairment. Many people have been waiting for so long that the impairment is now more serious. So we want the government to increase the number of subsidized places. And also in the tendering exercise, very often it will only be tendered out after the building is completed, and then a few months will be needed for renovation, and the resident will move in 6 months or more afterwards. I hope the tendering can be done earlier and the contractor selected so that renovation can start right after the building is ready, and we can save a few months. So 2 points. Mr. Lam? Mr. Cheung mentions that the ratio between subsidized and non-subsidized places is at a particular ratio. We have more than 20 contract homes in operation. The average ratio is a 60 to 40. 13 out of the 20-odd contract homes have more than 60% of subsidized places, and another line has a ratio under 60% in terms of subsidized places. So it's not true that no home has a ratio over 60% for subsidized residential care places. When we consider the ratio, we will consider the location of the home, the social factors of that particular district, and also whether there are other homes in the vicinity, and the supply of non-subsidized places in those homes. So for individual homes, the contract homes, the ratio may be higher, but on average, it's 60-40. The member also asked us to do something about the tendering exercise. The SWD would start the tendering process before the end of the construction, so as to compress the lead time required, so that when the premises are ready for occupation, after all the formalities have been checked by the buildings department and the premises are ready to be handed over to contractors, we'll do it immediately, and then the operation of the new home can start right away. Dr. Fernando Zhang. Again, this is a disaster. The shortfall in supply is disastrous. We have 30,000 elderly applicants in the waiting list, and every year 5,000 to 6,000 pass away while waiting. It's good to have more facilities, but you know, the number is just 100. 30,000 are waiting, and there are more coming on stream. Still, it lags far behind demand. Again, the ratio between subsidized and self-financing places is 60-40 according to you. For the 40% of self-financing places, only the middle class can afford those. It would cost something like 10,000 or more. Not really affordable to ordinary families. And we are building such facilities with public funds. So the middle class can pay $10,000 to $20,000 or more for those places. But those who are waiting for subsidized places might not get one, and then they pass away. So we are using public funds to NGOs to provide self-financing places to benefit or to give priority the middle class families. That's the result of doing all these. It's just the same with the rehabilitation services we've just discussed. So we're using public funds, but 40% of the places will go to the private market. We should build more subsidized places, and every applicant should queue up for a place. And for private homes, private places, we leave them to the market. We should not use public funds to subsidize their operation. You keep talking about people's livelihood, but now you are funding things that are not needed in the strict sense. As I've said, we look at individual homes, the locations, and we're not going to use a fixed ratio of 60-40. There are homes with a ratio higher than 60-40. In some, it's 70-30. Here we're talking about an average ratio. And also for self-financing places, they are also providing an additional choice to service recipients. And the general public, the people in Hong Kong will be benefited. The beneficiaries are needy elderly people. I'm not trying to pit the interests of the middle class with the poor. But you have been working slowly for many years. Now there's a shortage. Of course, the first priority must be for the grassroots. I would very much like to see that every social stratum would get the service needed. The poor, the middle class, the rich all get the services they need. But you are getting into in the way. This is a mismatch in terms of funding. Of course, I won't object to such proposals. Every time I would say yes, and every time you come back with ideas of spending public money in the wrong way. Mr. Hen Jiang, I agree very much with Dr. Fernando Jiang. Well, we've been waiting for this home to be commissioned, as Mr. Peter Jiang puts it, so we want to approve it as quickly as possible. But that's all I want to say. Ms. Emily Lau, or Mr. Tan Ka-Pil. Thank you, Chairman. First, the ratio of subsidized and self-financing places. You say in some homes it's over that ratio, for some it's lower. What is the criterion in deciding which is which? I think it's about money, because the construction cost is the sunk cost, but the operating cost is going to be recurrent. So you want to save money by asking them to offer more self-financing places. And you ask the contract homes to join join a tendering exercise afresh after a few years. Some NGO have said that this will affect their planning, for example, investment in their manpower deployment. Or are you going to cancel this arrangement whereby contract homes have to participate in new tendering exercises once every few years?
Every year, we have a lot of elderly people passing away while waiting for a place in contract LCHEs. And the reality is many of such organizations, a lot of these elderly people are using the services and at LCHEs, but they would rather stay at home because they're enjoying their lives here. And this illustrates the fact that with the right home care services, then we won't need so many LCHEs. Can you provide a figure for the elderly on the waiting list? How many of them are receiving other types of services? Mr. Lam, please. And for the third question, I would invite the Assistant Director to tell us something. And on the ratio of subsidized to self-finance services, and I'd like to stress that in the contract LCHEs, we would also subsidize the cost of renovation and fitting, and we are hoping to provide high-quality services for these LCHEs in order to offer more options to the elderly. So this is our thinking. And on the tendering exercise for the existing contract LCHEs since 2001, we have had 22 contract LCHEs in operation, and for each care center in our tender documents, they could operate for 5 years and they could ask for renewal. And after this 10 years, we would conduct a re-tendering exercise. And for elderly care homes, whether they are subsidized or private, they can apply for the program. And for our 22 existing contract LCHEs, a few of them are privately operated. So we are very we place a focus on the quality of the services. And from figures in March 2014, and of the elderly people on the waiting list, around 12% are using our home-based care services, which amounts to about 750 people. And around and for the elderly on our waiting list, about 12% or 300 or about 12% are using our community care services. So we would do our best to expand our community-based services. Ms. Emily Lau. The waiting list is so long, and I think it's quite ridiculous on the government's part. Hong Kong has such a healthy reserve, and these are much needed services for the elderly. And we are not providing enough services for the elderly or the children. So I don't understand what's going on. So more often than not, the Legislative Council would approve these projects. But yet we are seeing these problems. And the Deputy's Director could not give us any promises, and do you have any agreements with the Buildings Department that whenever we have new PRH developments, there must be these services? These services must be available. Do you have such such a collaboration at the moment. For all new PRH developments, we are certain to have these services. We will continue to talk with the buildings department. And in Annex 5 of the paper, Enclosure 5, of the 11 sites earmarked for the care centers, 7 sites are located in PRH developments. For example, Sha Tin Shui Chun O, Tung Chung Area 56, Anderson Road in Kwun Tong, the ex-Kwai Chung Police Mary Quarters in Kwai Chung, and Choi Yun Estate in Sheung Shui, and Shek Mun in Sha Tin, and ex-Fort Town College area. These are all PRH developments. And we have placed RCHEs in these estates. Chairman, is he saying that the government does have a policy? What about the government seems to have a policy for PRH? What about HOS? I think, well, what is the situation here? Whenever we have new developments such as these, we would have elderly care homes. Of course, we have to conduct public consultations in districts. So you are going to introduce these facilities with public consultation, right? So are you saying that you would consult residents who have not yet moved into these developments? And we would brief the residents on the plans of the PRH designs, and this is rather straightforward. Have you received any objections? No. Have you received any objections on the new designs or plans? Yes, no, no. When you look at Enclosure 5, we only have 1,000 or so places, but 29,000 people are waiting, and the figure is increasing every day. So how can you solve the problem? This is just a tip of the iceberg. Why can't we treat our elderly better in Hong Kong? And for the scheme I mentioned on using private land for welfare services, last year in last September, we invited some ideas or proposals, and we can provide 9,000 or so service places for the elderly, and around 7,000 places are for elderly homes. And these would be implemented in phases. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Chairman, our members are saying that you should reserve space for welfare facilities in new housing developments. You should reserve space for NGOs to provide services. But the fact is, you have sold all your facilities at the link, under the link, and there's nothing you can do with the older estates. So what are you going to do with the newer housing developments? You have sold very valuable assets very cheaply for $29 billion. So I think people who support the link should well die, so to speak. So you cannot count on older development. So is it reasonable for you to work more on the newer developments? You should build less shopping centers. The housing department also belongs to the government, right? This director does not represent the buildings department. Mr. Ng, they are all from the government. We are talking about the government, right? He cannot answer this question. So, objectively speaking, do you agree that the buildings department should do something? you cannot voice your personal opinion, right? Fairly speaking, should I'm very sure that you would not answer this question. I think the chairman is very smart. So let me come back to the issue of ratio. The market can solve this problem. In other words, in the property market, and we can achieve the percentage, the 40% mark for elderly care services. Our real problem is we don't have enough residential developments for the normal people, for the ordinary people. Why aren't you tackling this problem from a business standpoint? Why do you have to use public money to subsidize service providers even though they are self-financing? Why are you doing that? We don't have public land. We have no PRH. What is your policy? Have you done any surveys or statistics? Mr. Lam, please. For self-financed services, our aim is to introduce quality services in the markets through subvention, and we are aiming to provide more services at affordable levels to the public. We are not saying that these additional places serve to offer interest or profit to any service providers. Our main objective is to provide high-quality services which are affordable to the elderly. Mr. Leung Kwok-hong. Well, there's a difference in the ratio of 70%, 60%, or 80%. Do you agree with that? We do have subvented services, and we are trying to achieve a balance. And as I said, we are rather flexible. For each, we are not saying that for each RCHE the ratio is 60 to 40. We would look at the actual needs of each district. The speaker is off mic. He has answered your question. If members have no other questions, I would put this item into votes. Mr. Fernando Chang. And the scale of this RCHE is similar to other RCHEs recently. It's not located in a public housing estate. And it's we are talking about a former police headquarters or police married quarters. The newer housing estates are located in the vicinity of existing residential developments. This kind of residential care home is rather institutionalized. And some centers are rather large in scale, and some centers can accommodate hundreds of elderly people. This kind of elderly home is rather outdated. RCHEs can actually be integrated with the community. Why don't you go and discuss this matter with the housing department? You can actually vacate some spaces in the residential estates to provide services. It doesn't have the service units don't have to be very big. You can just provide services for 20 to 30 service places. You don't have to provide services to hundreds of people in each unit. In fact, this is the trend, and we have more than 20,000 people waiting. You are just paying attention to the figure. You have neglected the the quality, why don't you go back and hold further discussions with the Buildings Department? Yes, thank you very much for the suggestion. We will certainly go back and discuss with the Buildings Department. And small-scale service units are actually very beneficial to the elderly people, PWDs, and people in rehab. This is more effective than providing hundreds of RCHE places. So I hope you can consider this new mode for RCHEs. Mr. Alan Leung.
Chairman, we have been dealing with 2 items on social welfare facilities. I would like to use 2 minutes of your time to put something on record. I've been following up the welfare items for some 10 years now. I have this impression that in Hong Kong, we have everything in social service, but we don't have sufficient for any one of them, and we don't have the 5-year plan. Many questions raised are really hard to answer by officials from the Social Welfare Department because they are policy questions. Regrettably, the Hong Kong SAR government does not have any policy planning, any policy on the planning of social welfare facilities. This is most regrettable. I just want to air my grievances. Of course, this one has my support. If members have no other questions, I'll put the item to the vote. With those in favor of the item, FCR 2014-15 number 13, raise your hands. Thank you. With those in objection, please raise your hands. No. Abstention? No. I think the majority of members present are in favor of this item. This item is endorsed. Next item, FCR 2014-15 number 11. This item invites members to approve a new commitment of $88.814 million for acquiring computer equipment and services for the 2016 population by census. On the 2nd of December 2013, the FSTB consulted the Financial Affairs Panel of this Council to answer our questions. We have the foreign officials, Ms. Amy Wong from the FSTB, PAS, FS3, Commissioner for Census and Statistics, Mr. Leslie Tang, and Mr. Stephen Leung, Deputy Commissioner from the CNS Department, and also Mr. Lee, Ms. Esther Lee, Senior Systems Manager from the Census and Statistics Department. Who would like to raise questions? Mr. Chen Chi-chin. Well, in the meeting of the FA panel held in December last year, there was a discussion, and there was a list of suggested questions for the by census. In terms of social and population characteristics, there are items on gender and marital status. According to the CNS Department, they are trying to improve the items to take care of the cross-gender population. So there was this suggestion that there should be a third gender. And then marital status. In the note, it said that we are considering improving the categorization to take into account cohabitation and same-sex relationship. So that was back in December. They were considering doing something. Have you decided what to do? It was Ms. Lily Ao-Yeung who was the commissioner. We have a new commissioner. I asked how would the administration compile statistics on sexual minorities, because for government planning to be done smoothly, you must know how many people are there, how many sexual minority people are there. Maybe it's 100,000 or 200,000. So has the CNS department make up its mind yet? Oh yes. This is a by census. It's a large-scale population census. 6,000 interviewers and 240,000 households will be involved. Usually, for by census, we ask simple questions. Complicated and sensitive questions will normally not be asked in such a big-scale census exercise. So we have decided that for cross-gender category, they will not be covered. And LGBT nor LGBT people question be asked because they are sensitive and complicated. They are not suitable questions for large-scale census like this. Well, it's not my suggestion. It's stated in your paper that you want to include a third gender. That is a female, male, and then third gender or others. How complicated is this? If they want to give you the information, you just give a tick there, or they refuse to answer it. I know some of them will refuse to answer it because they want to keep it secret. But if you don't ask the question, you never have the data. It's said that you are trying to improve it, and now you have decided that not doing it is an improvement. The Census and Statistics Department is a professional department. What is important to us is to come up with accurate data to facilitate social discussion. If we ask a question and then we cannot get accurate data, we are not confident, we cannot guarantee that the interviewees will tell us the truth. So, after careful consideration, we think next, Dr. Fernando Jiang, in terms of cost, $30 million for hardware, $6 million for software, to be spent over a few years. Manpower, I think it's contract staff, enumerators, and so on. Interviewers, $35 million. So if you look at the ratio between equipment and manpower, it's sort of odd. I would have thought that usually manpower costs would be higher than that for hardware and software. Of course, you are going to buy 6,000 tablets. The 6,000 tablets will be purchased. What would happen to them after the by census? Are you going to use it again? Or are they going to be stored in a warehouse? I don't understand why the cost is so high. As I said, CNS department is interested in getting accurate data, and through the use of computer equipment, we want to enhance our efficiency. For the 6,000 enumerators, interviewers, we will use tablet computers instead of paper. There are many advantages because people nowadays attach importance to privacy. Compared with paper form, tablet computers can offer higher security for information. If it's a paper form, and if you lose the form, the privacy is easily leaked. If it's a tablet computer, all you can see is some codes. You don't know what they are about. And the information stored in each tablet computer is small. Maybe I can ask the Deputy Commissioner to also supplement as to what will happen to those tablet computers afterwards. The first question is about the ratio between equipment and manpower. The Commissioner has explained what the equipment will cover. And for the manpower, we would employ contract staff to develop the computer system. Is apart from the employment of 6,000 enumerators or interviewers. They have been separately funded. So here we're talking about manpower for the computer system developments. That's why we have this ratio. As for 6,000 tablet computers, after the bicensus is completed, we would we'll follow government procedures to see whether internally we can redeploy these mobile devices, and then they don't have to seek separate funding to procure those devices. And then the next step will be to ask other government departments to see if they need such tablet computers. If there's anything left, then we may go for an auction to sell them. Mr. Wu Chiu-Wai.
我睇咗份文件咧，大致上我見到最大嘅改動咧，就係由過往紙張嘅輸入咧。
So instead of using a paper form for data input, you are going to have these mobile computer devices. And you have to adjust your computer system, including one important subsystem. So instead of using paper form for data input, you are going to use a wireless network to collect the data, and then through some methods, you are going to load the information into your computer system. So I think that there will be an interface for the transfer of data, if I understand it correctly. But it seems that it's going to be more than that. You need to have a complete overhaul of a subsystem. Did something happen in the last census? So that you need to have a major check or an overhaul of your system this time. And this is a bicensus. Usually, the scale is smaller. We are going to have a full-scale census every 10 years. So, in 2021, you are going to need an upgrade of your system again to upgrade your hardware and software. For that big exercise, I will defer to my Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. Let's talk about the first question. In this bicensus, we mostly use the computer systems that we used back in 2011, 18 systems altogether. For 17 of them, we can use most of them with a little bit of modification. And then for one, for releasing information onto the website, there will be some minor adjustments, and there will be a new system. So this time we have 19 such systems. For this 2016 bicensus, all the computers that we use will be kept, and so that we can reuse them in 2021. 4 of them will certainly be reused. For the other, if they can be readjusted and still usable, we will do them, or if there are modification required, we'll do so, and we'll also add new systems if need be.
Chairman, can we invite the administration to elaborate on, you mentioned that other departments would take over the hardware equipment. So what kind of departments would could use such equipment in the future? Deputy Commissioner. Thank you, Chairman. At this stage, we have not consulted other departments on whether they have needs for these hardware. And when the BySenses is completed, we would review whether our own department needs any new systems before we go and ask other departments. So they would give priority to their own department. Mr. Charles Mok. And the government departments have always been very professional in terms of these systems. Mr. Fernando Cheung raised the issue of manpower and the ratio of hardware to software. As mentioned, there will be 6,000 tablets, and I'm not concerned that these would go to waste, because during the civil referendum for the pop votes, we did have a few hundred tablets, so I'm sure that they can be reused. And with these hardware, the government is perfectly capable of running another civil referendum using these equipment. So if you can put in more money to speed up the whole process, I would be very supportive. And on the transmission and security of personal data, what are you going to do? You mentioned that the security use of the computer systems are much better, and I hope Mr. Chow Yong could understand this point. I think the government should run more electronic voting exercises. So how are you going to handle the electronic transmission of data? And I believe the transmission is done through a 3G or 4G network, right? And on the computer venues, you only allocated about $200,000. Are you going to make use of existing data centers? Do you need more money for data encryption? We follow the government's security ordinance, so the transmission is absolutely safe. We do have specific standards to meet, and in terms of data transmission, the security is much enhanced by using tablets. During the civil referendum, we use data encryption or hashing. So in terms of technology, what are you going to do to secure to ensure security? So are you using technology such as SSL? Of course, I understand it's safer than paper collection. Yes, we use SSL. What about the venues for computers? We are going to make use of the government's data centers. So what kind of adjustments are you going to make for the BySenses? Perhaps Ms. Lee can tell us more. In response to the member's question, we would make use of the department's existing data centers and AV control rooms, and we would extend our cloud services, and we will introduce new service to support the 2016 population BySenses. All right, next, Ms. Priscilla Leung. Chairman, I'd like to share my views. Just now, Mr. Ray Chan mentioned the issue of gender. On top of female and male, we should introduce a new category called unidentified. This is a very controversial topic. And I'm part of the sexual minority panel. And you can see that such issues are very controversial, especially in light of the recent amendment of the marriage law. And this is an issue which we haven't yet have a public consensus on. So technically speaking, we would support this funding request. Just now, well, I agree with your point, Mr. Ray Chan, but I have an opposing view, as you know, from my work at the sexual minority panel. Ms. Priscilla Leung, please continue. Please respect my opinion. Chairman, I just hope that they can respect my opinion. Yes, you may continue. This is my stance. And I'm sure that many legislators are aware of the controversial nature of the topic. I think the burden should not be placed on this item, which is rather technical in nature. And Mr. Charles Mok mentioned the civil referendum, and fairly speaking, for Occupy Central movement and the anti-Occupy Central movement, the referendum could only be considered a collection of opinion at best. It's not a popular voting. So I think it's just a collection of opinion. So please don't mislead the public. Hong Kong does not have a real popular voting, which is impossible because Hong Kong is not authorized to have this kind of voting. So this is just my view, and I'm in support of this funding application. I hope members can focus on the financial aspects of the introduction of computer department. Please don't be sidetracked. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Just now, Mr. Ray Chan, you said that Mr. Ray Chan should not interrupt Ms. Priscilla Leung, but Chairman, just now the statement read out by Mr. Ray Chan was published by the Census and Statistics Department, and it was well-grounded. And now Ms. Priscilla Leung is interrupting. Please set an example. You have not done your homework. Ms. Leung and Mr. Leung, please don't have a direct conversation. Chairman, Mr. Leung, please continue. And she has not done her homework. And she's accusing me of interrupting her. This is information published by the CSD, and Ms. Ray Chan was only asking why the government is not delivering on what they promised. And it's true that the surveys must be factual, but you have to tell us that why are other countries able to introduce such concepts and Hong Kong cannot? Can you go back to the issue of requisition of computer equipment? Computer equipment is only hardware, but the most precious the most precious aspect is brain power and not equipment. in the past, when I ran for election, can you focus on the population by census? Mr. Can you give me a chance to complete my sentence? In my election campaigns, I've only underestimated the number of voters who would support me. But after assigning a proper weighting, I was able to secure much more accurate figures. So after collecting the data, you have to assign the proper weighings to the numbers. Can you please don't be sidetracked? Can we come back to the computer equipment? You don't have to teach them how to do the census. I think purchasing computer systems are necessary, but Mr. Ng, I'd like to point out that we are the ones who are who are controlling the computers and not the other way around. We must come up with a meaningful by-census, so we must perform a horizontal comparison with other countries and see why they can manage to do it and Hong Kong cannot. This is just a kind of test, and after collecting the data, we can come up with the right parameters horizontally and vertically. And these figures are only for reference, and this is something you can stipulate. And if you are saying that this issue is complicated and sensitive, you are lying. This issue is only sensitive, but not complicated. Next, Mr. Kenneth Chen. I think I hope Mr. Leung Ko-hong can go on to entertain all of us, and perhaps they can have a debate with he can have a debate with Ms. Priscilla Leung. Coming on a more serious note, this system certainly offers greater convenience for the by-census. And but I've noticed that in the past, the CSD was not involved in a lot of the estimations, and I'm wondering if this system can improve this situation. And for a lot of projects on the enclaves, the population estimates was 600 or 700, and yet these statistics did not come from CSD, and we were always wondering where these figures came from. And as such, the planning, a lot of planning exercises were uncrowned and seems to be dictated by the village chiefs. And now you are going to purchase these computer systems, and in paragraph 27. You said that it allows more detailed sampling of the geographical areas. So, so my question is, how would these systems help with the sampling of some villages in the new territories or the small houses? And one of the most vital stats collected by the by-census is the population figures of the smaller districts in Hong Kong. Normally, when we conduct surveys or when we conduct population surveys, it's an overall exercise. Every 5 years, we will conduct either a population census or well, yes, I know how it works, so you don't have to get to the nitty-gritty, but we can secure more detailed breakdowns of the population figures. We can understand the population characteristics of different districts. And for places like Hoi Ha, Pak Lap, and for the enclaves in these areas, and the village chiefs may say that we have a lot of small houses. That's why we need a lot of land. And with this new system in place, do you think that it can help with the planning? And in the course of so that the consultation exercises with the public and town planning board can be more organized.
The census would give us more accurate statistics on the smaller geographical areas. We will do it once every 5 years, and then the planning department would base on these census statistics in doing planning. Has it been the policy all along? Why is it that for Park Laps, Hoi Ha and Solopun, they can say that there are 600 or 1,000 villages as they like? What has happened from your professional perspective? I don't know what has happened to the planning department. Every 5 years we have a census, and there will be a census statistics for different districts, and then they will work on those statistics in doing the planning. Dr. Helena Wong. Well, I would like to respond to Dr. Priscilla Leung. Having heard her, I think she's suffering from homophobia and referendum phobia. When you do a census, the important thing is not to have a bias. Data are neutral. Collection of data should be done objectively. Then the census statistics are reliable data. If we deliberately collect information or data on heterosexual people to the exclusion of homosexual people, or we cover up the data on transsexuals, transgender people, we are going to spend $88 million for no purpose. We need to invest in hardware. But if you follow what Dr. Priscilla Leung has said, I would rather you saving the $88 million, because the census data you collect will only reflect part of the picture and not the full picture. There will be bias. If the census and statistics follow what Dr. Priscilla Leung has suggested, then I won't support this funding proposal. CNES department, please assure us that you are not going to follow the suggestion of Dr. Priscilla Leung. You should not just select to cover certain groups of people, because the census statistics are there to base our policy making. If you deliberately try not to collect certain data, the data collected will be useless. The computer purchase will not be put to good use. The census statistics to reflect the demographic situation as it is, and don't try to delude ourselves. I'm concerned about gender mainstreaming. I've asked the department time and again, do you have gender experts who can advise you on how to go about censuses or by censuses to gather statistics on gender differences? Without such statistics, it would be difficult to conduct gender analysis in various policy areas. I'm in favor of the collection of gender statistics by the Census and Statistics Department. And apart from gender, we need other statistics. For example, the situation with cross-gender people, and including transsexuals, and also racial minorities, new arrivals, new immigrants, cross-boundary families, cross-boundary students, type 1, type 2 babies. Well, some information is sensitive, But there's no reason that we should not collect such information, because that would make us difficult to formulate policies. Dr. Facila Leung has a phobia for a referendum. A referendum is a referendum. It will not become a non-referendum just because Dr. Leung doesn't like it. Well, let's all stick to the computer purchase and the need for such computer equipment. Please don't go to details in the policy area. Ms. Ito, I'll be on computer as far as I can manage. Computers are objective. They are not discriminatory. What we need is to have one more box to take, or a few more boxes to take: male, female, sexual orientation, transsexual, cross-gender, or haven't completely transformed one's sex, one's gender. A computer system can accommodate all these as long as the designer does not deliberately try to wipe out the differences. If a survey is conducted for the purpose of covering up certain differences, then it certainly sends cold chills down our spines. And it's been said that you don't have quote-unquote mandate to do this. Then I have a question for the Commissioner. Your predecessor, Ms. Lily Aoyang, proposed this, and that is there should be questions asked to ascertain people of different sexual orientations. So, Commissioner, do you think that you need a mandate to do this? In past censuses, there were supplementary questions. For example, on housing accommodation, there were questions on housing accommodation. They asked people whether they would afford to buy a flat, and where are they living. So the government try to ascertain the housing status of the respondents through such questions. A census provides us with the best opportunity to ascertain these questions. This time, who decides what questions that are going to be put? As Dr. Helena Wong, we would like to have questions on gender mainstreaming, German, on hardware, the computer, the 6,000 mobile devices, tablet computers. After the census is completed, where will they go? Will the Census and Statistics Department keep them, or are you going to give them out? I think the second question has been asked and answered. Perhaps you can repeat the answer briefly. For the first question, I would rather you give us a brief response, because in the document I don't see anything on this policy. I think a discussion should be interactive so that we can cover a more fruitful area. Well, it's not that I'm not allowing any discussion, but there are rules for the Finance Committee. But if that's the case, whatever not put, they decide not right in the document, then we don't have to ask those questions. Well, for those already set out in the paper, of course they've got stock answers prepared. It's not in the paper, and I don't think you should ask for too much. Well, those that you cannot find in the paper are more important matters. Let's get an answer. Well, for the Census and Statistics, it's simple and straightforward. Ours is a professional department. We decide what data to collect and what not to collect from a professional standpoint. We want to make sure that we would collect accurate data. Overestimate or underestimate the situation will not benefit the community. We want to provide the community accurate statistics. This by census will see the additional question on subdivider flats, people living in substandard housing accommodation. We're going to collect more information on that front. I think time's up. We have another 4 sessions tomorrow, and we'll continue tomorrow. So please return at 9 a.m. for the next session. Meeting's now adjourned.